bed and I can't get up.
No, you gotta do warm up.
If I get up, then I'm gonna I'm scared to mess up the sound. Hey! I'm Veneer.
And I'm Ryan.
And this is
For the Creators. Via Skype.
Can you tell?
Can you tell? It's different. It's different. It's different now.
How's it going up in good old Center Parks?
It's wicked, man. Really, really relaxing. Nice weather. Trees, grass, lakes, ducks. It's all good, man. It's all good.
Nice. The good life. Well, it's nice here in my bedroom. White walls. More white walls. Well, actually, I've got my plants in here, which are quite, therapeutic. So
good.
I guess that's my little small contribution to the jungle life.
Yeah. So yeah, we're trying this remotely today for various reasons. Well, one, I'm in Center Parks, but two, we wanted a way to be able to record wherever we are in the world, and due to some recent rescheduling issues, we kind of had to figure out a way to do this, and we kind of figured it out last minute. But here we are, and it's working.
Yeah, and I think the good thing about our approach and why I really like our relationship is that it's not to focus on the problems, because when things happen, we actually focus on trying to figure out what is the lesson here and how can we learn from it and move forward. So now I have a mic, which I'm very, very gassed about, by the way. I've been singing like Beyonce on this mic. Mike's been having photo shoots, everything. Imagine, I was posting pics of the mic. Ryan's like, have you tested the sound? I'm like, no, but it looks cute though.
Typical. No, I'm really glad. Like you said, as a team, it's all about focusing on the solutions, not the problems. We're going to come up to lots of problems. So it's just about figuring out what can we do.
Definitely. And as you guys know, every week we usually have something wrong with the sound. So I'm hoping that this week...
I feel like you're shading me right now.
No. Saying that though, which we're going to go into discussing later, I didn't hear any problems with the Wale interview. I couldn't tell. So whatever you did...
So maybe if I didn't say anything, people wouldn't have realised. I don't know. I guess audio people would realise. Basically, because we was recording the interview outside, I thought there was background noise and stuff, and there was a part where while they were speaking, I couldn't really hear him. So I turned up what I thought was his mic, and ended up turning up my mic. So it comes through a bit distorted a bit, but you can still hear what I'm saying. So it's all good.
Yeah. So what else have you been up to this week, mate?
What we've been up to this week? Just this. And music projects. Getting stuck into that. I think I say that every week. But working with a very talented artist from America, and we're just getting revved up on a very interesting project that I'll be able to spill the details on hopefully pretty soon. Well, just want to drop the music, to be fair. But working on that and figuring out this week, because we were supposed to meet in person last week, weren't we? But we had a couple of issues.
So for me personally, I've had this major madness in my flat, which I'm really pissed off about, but it's something that's been going on this week. I've literally got a ceiling missing, and I'm not even exaggerating. The ceiling is missing. Prior to that, I've been also working a lot with Big Nasty's team, working on his marketing strategy for the release of his new album, and also working with them on his new Channel 4 show, just trying to get things together. Currently organising a pop-up show for Big Nasty, which will probably take place in a couple of weeks. Just trying to do that, as well as, running my business, managing our socials. And literally, I've just spent the last week just digging on Instagram, because Instagram is now officially my favourite new place. and finding
For real.
creatives and just being inspired. Like I was just saying to Ryan, Instagram is literally like, there's just so many people on there and everyone is just so amazingly creative. It just blows my mind. It's like every day I find something like, how did you even do that? So
It's mad, isn't it? It's mad. There's so many people, so many different walks of life, and like you said, until you start actively seeking out these people and their work, it's, you know, you might not know, but when you check it out, it's crazy. And then if you check out our page at For the Creators Podcast, you'll see all the gems that Veneer finds in the endless world of Instagram.
yeah, because what I've been trying to do is to try and make our Instagram an extension of the podcast, because it started off with me just really being interested in finding creative people, and then I realized, hold on, the whole point of our show, the ethos of the show, is to celebrate creativity and to shine a spotlight on individuals who don't usually get seen, because unless you're in the limelight, people won't necessarily know how great you are at what you do. So I really wanted to, like I said, use Instagram as an extension of that. So every day I've literally been finding the most creative thing that I've seen today. And if you check out what I've done so far, and if there's someone that you'd like to recommend, please feel free to just DM us and I'll definitely feature them, because I feel like it's important to highlight talent, and also to let them shine.
Absolutely.
Get it?
Absolutely. Yeah, I got it.
Pun intended. Okay,
Definitely
so
pun intended.
yeah.
Just to go back quickly, you said you was working on Big Nasty's album launch. When's the album coming out?
It's coming out on the 6th of July. His
Sick.
television show on Channel 4, which is the Big Nasty show. He's also going to be working with Mo the comedian on that show, and that starts on Channel 4 on the 29th of June. So it's gonna be good.
It's a big month.
It's gonna be good this month.
It's a big
Especially
month
for
coming
Big
up.
Nasty. He's got some really, really good guests on there. But I won't say too much. I'll let you guys tune in. But it's going to be an amazing show.
So the show's on Channel 4?
It's on Channel 4, yes. Starting on the 29th of June. I think he'll probably start around 10, because he'll obviously have to be after the watershed for obvious reasons.
Yeah, definitely. So he's going up against Graham Norton, Alan Carr, I suppose.
Yeah, I think what Nasty's bringing is probably slightly different to the audience that they attract, because the whole point of putting someone like Big Nasty on the show is, or to put him on TV, is so that he can attract a much younger audience. So his demographic ranges from 18 to 24 normally. But the good
Right.
thing about being Big Nasty being such a character is it's like everyone loves Big Nasty. It doesn't matter what age you are. He's so personable, and I think everyone just loves him because he's just so unapologetically himself.
Right.
So I think Channel 4, I think the last time or the last few times he'd been on Channel 4, he increased their 18 to 25 or 18 to 34 demographic by about 30%.
That's huge.
Yeah. So he's basically TV gold. So I guess they're just capitalizing on that by giving him his own show. And I really, really hope it works out for him, because he's such an amazing guy. He's a really good friend of mine. And I can't wait to see what else the future holds for him.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, it's really good. It's good for him, but it's also good for the culture as well.
Definitely. Pre-order were on all major music platforms as well.
Is that what the album's called?
Yeah. Whoa.
Definitely. So you can pre-save it on Spotify?
Yeah, I think so. You can definitely pre-order it in all the other platforms. I'm not sure on Spotify, but
Okay.
if there is an option to pre-save, then you should be able to.
That's going to be sick.
Yes.
Yes. So,
The interview that went out on Monday is the amazing Wale Adeyemi MBE. How did that
yeah.
go?
It was really, really good, you know, a nice, relaxed conversation. I mean, I've known Wale for ages, and he's just a really nice guy, man. But having known him this whole time, I haven't really kind of sat down with him and had, you know, that conversation with him to find out what his origin story was and what went into him mastering his craft, you know, because I mean we meet new creatives all the time, but sometimes, you know, you don't see people that are in it for decades and still relevant and still doing bits and bobs behind the scenes and stuff. So yeah, it was really good to kind of unwrap that and get some good stories out of it.
Mm-hmm. So what was your main takeaway from the conversation with them?
Kind of like you don't make your own luck, but luck does play a role in it, in that, you know, you've got to just be on your job, and then opportunities will come up, and you might not necessarily know what those opportunities will lead to, but as long as you stay on your grind and you stay learning and you stay humble, things will come to you. You know, it's about your timeline and not anyone else's. I really, really liked what he said about everyone going to the same destination, but going on different train lines. I think that was a really good visualization.
Yeah, that really stood out for me as well.
Yeah,
I think I agree with everything that you said about your conversation with him. The main thing that really stuck out for me after listening to it was just how humble he was. Because I didn't really sense, you know, when you get some people and they like to name drop, or, you know, the whole point of them being a designer is because of the fame side of it and what they're getting out of it. For me, the main thing that came across from him is just that he's just in love with what he's doing. And he's so passionate. And the thing that stood out as well was when he said, if tomorrow they were to turn around and say to me that I should no longer be a fashion designer, I'll still create anyway.
Right.
And
exactly.
That was amazing for me. And it really kind of stems back to, like, because we didn't get to record our spotlight last week and I really missed it. And this is something that's new for us, but it was really interesting because I was really upset when we couldn't do the podcast last week.
Yeah.
And I've never been upset about not being able to go to work. I'm just putting it out there. That has never been the case for me. I remember when I was doing the 9 to 5 and things like that. The moment I heard that it was snowing, I was praying for the trains to pack up so I didn't have to go in. I wanted every excuse, but I find that when you really enjoy what you're doing and you're really passionate about it, that it's such a joy to do it, that it doesn't matter what the outside world says or everyone else's opinion. It's just something. It's like he said again, it's in his DNA. He can't control it. So for me, that's what really stood out. You know, when you're really passionate about something, it becomes you. Like, there's no separation. Like, you and it become one. It's like with the podcast, since we've been doing it, it's strange because it's not even something that I was even aware of, that I was genuinely interested in before, but the podcast found me, and since then I'm just so passionate about it. Like, there's no day that I wake up and I don't think about the podcast and how we can improve it, and we're constantly talking and we're constantly discussing like our quick wins. If you were to see our WhatsApp conversations, like, literally, oh my god, this person liked a comment, and we're just so excited. And
yeah, man,
that is the joy of life. And that's another thing that he was saying as well. It's not so much about the destination, and that's where people get things mixed up. Like, it's all about the journey and enjoying every moment of the journey, because tomorrow is not promised. So you can be holding out for that future, that, you know, that light at the end of the tunnel, but you just don't know. And it's even like the video that you send me about, you know, it's one thing to want 1 million followers or 1 million downloads, but you can still make such a great impact with 100 or 1,000 or 10,000. So it's really about focusing on the reason why you started to do something initially, and not just on the reward.
Definitely. And we'll put up that video in this description. Actually, it's a link to an animation from an article by Kevin Kelly, who is the founder of Wired magazine and about a whole bunch of other things. But he put up a blog post about having 1,000 true fans, and it's about not having to necessarily be famous in the traditional sense, and this applies to all creators, but also businesses as well. If you have a niche, you can have a small following that can become that can have a big impact on your business or on your fan base. So we'll stick it up in the description so you understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it really put things into perspective, because in this day and age, and it's something that Wale touched on in the interview as well, like when he was coming up as a designer, there wasn't as much pressure on him to do things as quickly. So he took the time to really nurture his talent and grow over time in a very organic way. But in this day and age where we have followers and you're on social media, and it then becomes a thing, it becomes less about the craft and more about numbers.
Exactly.
And life is so much bigger than that. And you know what, I'm grateful for all the followers that we've been able to generate on our social media platforms and things like that. But really, like, one thing I've always said to myself personally, like, my legacy will be based on the amount of lives that I'm able to touch. But I want to genuinely be able to touch someone's life, and not just have all these people following you, but they're not really engaging with the content and they're not really getting anything out of it. That doesn't mean anything to me. And that's why I'm really against like buying followers and things like that, because then it becomes irrelevant. Like, what is the point of us doing what we're doing if we're talking to robots?
Right. Exactly. And then the content just goes to no one. I mean, the whole point is that the stuff that we put up gets to people and not even people, creators, and makes a difference.
Definitely. So yeah, I think those are the main things that I took out of the conversation with him. And again, it's like everyone that we speak to is very much about, like, if you have a dream, you have to believe in that dream more than anyone else, because if you do not believe in it, no one else will. And of course, you're going to have your parents, you're going to have friends, like extended family, associates. People won't get it because it's not their dream. And you shouldn't expect them to get it because it's not their dream. I think some of us get so upset when people don't get what we're trying to do. And it's even something that you said to me the other day, Ryan. I was just like, I'm sure that some of my family members haven't listened to the podcast. And a fair point is, it might not be the medium that they're interested in, or for the most part, a lot of people don't really understand what a podcast is.
Yeah.
But ultimately, you can't let that be the reason why you're doing it. Don't always seek validation externally. If you are confident in what you're doing and you really, really passionate about it, and you know that you can make it a success, just do it anyway. Because for me, people are always going to ask you first, like, why are you doing it? And then next they're going to ask you, how did you do it? So just keep going, guys, literally.
Keep going. It's so important. If you listen back, like Vanille was saying, if you listen back to all of the episodes, no one knew, none of them knew when the quote unquote big break was going to happen. And it kind of happens in a way that no one expects either. It's just the fact that they stuck. They stuck at, that's a new one
for the Creators Dictionary coming soon. Translation.
I like that though. They stuck at it. They stuck at it, and then something appeared, and it's just about staying on the road and doing it for the right reasons, doing it for the love of it and for the art, and because you want to be great at it and because you want to leave an impact on the world. That it seems counterproductive, but that is what works. So yeah, listen back to those episodes and keep at it.
Definitely. Like you said, it's in every single conversation that we've had, every single person who's, been in the industry for a very long time. True Tiger said it, again, Wale said it. You just have to keep going and stick to it. And even the video that I posted on our Instagram, Kevin Hart said it. He's been in the game for 18 years, and people have only seen the last 6, and it's only been in the last 6 where he's been successful. The first 12 years was just all no's.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like sometimes when I get frustrated, and it is gonna get frustrating, I promise
Mm-hmm.
you. Like if I was to tell you some of the things that I'm going through right now, but I just have to find it deep within me to just keep going, because it's like these things, they just come in threes and you just never know what is around the corner, but you literally have to keep going because you just never know when you're just one step away from that big break.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Cool.
there's the preaching over. Amen. Hallelujah, brothers and sisters.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
I just felt like preaching for a minute there, guys. I'm sorry.
It's all good. That's what happens when you miss one spotlight episode.
I'm trying to make up.
It all pens up.
Yeah, I've had this in me. I had to get it out. But
Yeah,
yeah,
straight.
as we said before, every week we always discuss what's the most creative thing that we've seen this week, and I think we've kind of touched on that. One of the most creative things I've seen this week, and I think everyone on our Instagram page agrees, is this digital art by an artist called Marjan Moghandam. I don't know if I'm pronouncing her name properly, but it's basically, it starts off with a blue masculine figure and then like a red feminine figure, and then their bodies kind of intertwine and it then ends up creating different shapes out of their bodies, but it's all digital, so it's not actually anything physical, but it looks so realistic. I don't even know how to really explain it. It's crazy.
It was, yeah, it's very, well, check it out on our Instagram. That's the best way to
yeah, it's had
to describe
over
it. But yeah, it was cool, man. Like the I don't know, was it set in an art gallery? That's what it looked like to me.
yeah, it was it's in a museum. It was an exhibition. So yeah, it was definitely in a gallery. It was an exhibition that she was part of, and that was what she presented.
Right.
But it's just hard to describe. But I found digital art so amazing, and there's so many different examples of it. But I'm just blown away. Like when you sit down, how do you sit down and
Come up with
something like that? It's
Exactly. And that's what the whole show's about, because I'd love to speak, or we would love to speak to how do you pronounce her name? Marjan Moghandam. And see, yeah, what was the thought process behind that? You know? Because I'm sure there's a deep meaning. I'm watching it now, and you know, two beings that are forming mad crazy shapes, and you could interpret it as, okay, so they've met and they've met and then they intertwine and they go through a whole bunch of madness and then they end up separate. Like, it's all down to interpretation, which means it's art, you know. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I also think it could be like when you're in a relationship with someone, you become intertwined. Yeah. Like whether it's you're physically through the physical act of having sex, or it can be spiritually as well, because I feel like it's even like when you're with someone for so long that you can end their sentences for them, and like you eventually become one. Some people even start saying that you start looking alike because you're around someone for so long.
I've seen that, you know.
Yeah, so I feel like you literally become one, and I think that's kind of what it represents. But then you go through, maybe because some of the shapes looked very harsh. I don't know how to explain it. Like slightly scary. Like
a vase, like a glass.
Yeah,
like glass shards almost.
Yeah, and then some of it was like very smooth and like rounded and soft. So I feel like it's probably showing you the different dimensions of when two people come together as one, and you know how they interlock and interrelate with each other. So like I said, and that's the beautiful thing about art, again, it's down to interpretation. So two people would never see the same thing, and that's the beautiful thing about creativity in general. So what was the most creative thing that you've seen this week, Ryan?
Absolutely. There's so many. Sticking on our Instagram, the digital emoji art. I think that's sick. That's proper sick. So, by Young Jake. If you go through our Instagram, there's a picture of Childish Gambino, Donald Glover, but it's all made out of emojis. It's crazy.
Yeah, and as you scroll along, it's got like Nicki Minaj, Beyonce,
Meek Mill, Kendrick Lamar, Will Smith. I'm just scrolling through.
Cardi
Beyonce.
B.
Right, you know what? I didn't even see the Beyonce one the first time. By the way, Beyonce seems to be our ghost host or ghost guest. I think she's appeared on every single Spotlight
she
episode.
about to appear on the show soon, homie.
Homie, yes.
Yeah.
Cardi B, Travis Scott, Migos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and do you know what? I actually like sat there and tried to look at the level of detail that went into each image. It's like, how do you even come up with that stuff? Like, and then you're combining emojis, but it's not even a situation where you look at the image and you have to try and decipher who it is. You know who it is straight away just by looking at it. Because there's some people who do these things and you're kind of like, is it that person or is it that person? No, if you step away from the image, you know who it is straight away. There's no second guessing.
Exactly.
So,
Even if you blur your eyes a bit.
meanwhile,
I'm doing it. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You won't be able to hear this, but I'm squinting my eyes. And Renee can see me because we're doing this via Skype.
He's a loser, baby. Man. He might as well shoot himself. Anyway. Yeah, but there's just so many talented people out there. Like, it's crazy. The other thing that I came across this week as well was Idris Elba's new film.
Yes.
Yardi.
I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah, I'm
Yardi. I heard about this a while ago, and I was waiting for the trailer to drop, and I didn't realize that it's who's playing the main character again? Do you remember?
Let me put it in the description. If you go onto our Instagram again, you'd see it on there. We've got the trailer for the new film in there. It's set in the 1980s and 90s. It's basically a brother trying to avenge his older brother's death. It starts off in Jamaica and ends in England, but it looks really, really interesting. It really took me back to the days of Shutter, Third World Cup, Dancehall Queen. I don't know if it's gonna have the same vibe, but I was just gassed anyway to see a film that, you know, originated in Jamaica and the accent sounded reasonably authentic.
Right,
things like that. So yeah,
it's good, man. There hasn't been a film that's like shone a light on this side of culture in ages. No. I don't think. And
the funny thing is, I think I didn't expect that from Idris Elba, to be honest, because his background isn't Jamaican. So, and this is his directorial debut as well. So it'll be interesting. I think the film's is going to be played at a Sundance Film Festival very soon.
Good.
Hopefully,
I've just seen that it's Amil Amin who's playing the lead.
Mm-hmm.
And he was in I'm blanking. I can't remember. Yep. Maybe we should write notes before we do this. Maybe I should. But yeah,
Sorry,
we'll stick
guys.
up. Yeah, we'll stick up the details in the description for show. What else has happened in this week?
Yeah, so Miss Dynamite and Anthony Joshua received awards from the Queen. Anthony Joshua received an OBE for his contribution to boxing, and Miss Dynamite for her contribution to music.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. It's interesting that it would happen to Miss Dynamite now when she's like so out of the spotlight. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I think maybe it's a thing where because Wiley got recognised. Was Riley recognised last year? Was it last year? It seemed like it was more recent.
That was quite recently.
Yeah.
Maybe
how often
4 months ago?
Yeah, how often do they give these awards out? But
I'm not too sure, because I know this is her birthday honours, so maybe there's different milestones in which they give out these awards.
Okay, must be, because that's what I was automatically thinking. If it's a birthday's once a year, but Wiley's one seemed like it was a lot more recent.
No. Okay, so that's what it is. So the Queen has 2 birthdays.
What?
technically. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but when she became queen, they consider that as a birthday, and then she has her birthday.
Well, excuse me. Well, I think I'm going to be celebrating a birthday in the summer and one in the winter, guys. Thank you very much. Yeah, so as you know, every week we have a topic of the week. And this week's topic is how to use fear to your advantage as a creative.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. What are your thoughts on it?
Well, I was thinking about it, and I was thinking about the two definitions of fear that I have in my mind. So one definition of fear can be false emotions appearing real.
Mm-hmm.
Or it can be face everything and rise.
Ooh.
So again, it's really about, the other one is actually, which is probably better, is forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.
Okay, yeah.
Because those two, they both apply. They play off each other, right? Because in normal situations, most people will kind of like forget everything and run. Yeah. But really, you should be facing everything and rising. And the reason why I say that is, you know, in life, you're going to get so many things that you encounter. And usually if you're going into any situation, if something's new to you, obviously you're going to be scared about it because you've never done it before. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of the time we put so much pressure on ourselves thinking that we need to know everything. But for every novice was once a beginner, you have to start somewhere. And if you're starting somewhere, then you're going to fail sometimes, you know what I mean? It's like one thing that I heard
of it.
Yeah, one thing I heard some time ago is that actually when we walk, our body is not technically supposed to be standing upright. So when we walk, we're actually falling down each time. But because we've never been told that each time that we walk, we're actually tripping, we're not bothered by it.
Right.
There's a lot of things. There's another good analogy that I heard as well. I don't know if you've ever heard it, Ryan. It's about the bee. So basically, if you look at the size of a bee's body, have you ever looked at a bee's body? How fat its torso or its middle is. It's very fat and plump. But then when you compare that to the size of its wings.
Yeah, for real. The wings are always smaller.
And the wings are really, really small.
Well, they look smaller.
Yeah, and then the story behind that is no one's ever told the bee that its wings are technically too small for it to fly. It just flies.
Yeah, for real.
So a lot of the times in life, it's like we're taught fear. I think when we're growing up as children, we're not taught to be fearless. We're taught to be fearful. It's like when a child's learning how to walk, if the child stumbles, most of the time it's not really because the child stumbled why the child would start crying. It's usually because of the parent's reaction. Yeah,
I've seen that.
Yeah, and again, it's similar to the video that I posted this morning on our Instagram page, which was talking about the elephants. And when you tie a rope around an elephant's legs when they're young and they're a child, and they realize that they were unable to break free. As they grow older, you tie the same size rope around their legs. They're huge giants, but they'll never break free from it because they've been conditioned to think that once you fail at something once, that you can't go on to actually make that same thing a success. So I think that's the same thing with fear. If something really scares you, then you should actually use that as ammunition rather than use it as something that will make you scared or, you know, not being able to try it. Like, just go for it. Because what's the worst that can happen? Like, you end up at square one.
Yeah. And you apply that in your business, right? When you're asked to do something that you don't know how to do, you say yes and then figure it out.
Yeah. That's always been my mantra for a very long time. It's like, and I always say this to people, like, you are capable of doing absolutely anything that you want to do. But again, it's your mind. It's your mind. And I think a lot of this stems from the fact that we're still animals at heart. So our survival instinct is still there. And our mind is designed to protect us. So if you think about how the mind works, it's that in any situation it's trying to protect you. So if something looks like you're in danger, and usually it can't differentiate when it's a physical act from an actual thought or an emotion. So automatically it kicks in. It's going to tell you all the reasons why you shouldn't do something because it's scared. Because ultimately its main job is to help you to survive. So sometimes you have to be really, really conscious of what your mind's saying to you. Your mind is not always right. Your mind is designed to protect you. It's not designed to make you, this major superstar. And I think there's the other side of fear as well, where we're also scared of success. And I think that's something that I struggle with. A lot.
I think a lot of creatives would struggle with that, because the thought behind it of what happens to not even just yourself but the people around you, and if I get massive, am I going to be able to be consistent with my art? There's so much more pressure that adds on, and that can really stifle people.
Yeah, and then there's also the thing of selling out. Because I feel like in the society that we live in, it's almost like Jay-Z said it best, I think. Like, I didn't work this hard to stay the same.
Yeah.
And people want to see you succeed, but they still want you to stay the same. Because why? It makes them feel comfortable. Like, if you're seen to be someone who, like, for example, you've lived your whole life in the ghetto. Like, no one's going to want to be successful and stay in the ghetto. The whole point of working this hard is for you to get out. But other people would want to keep you in the ghetto because that's where they are. So it makes them feel comfortable with you remaining in the same position. It's not that you're doing anything wrong or you're a bad person. But there's one lady and she said it best. She's like, mate, I have to get out so that I can help you to get out. If we all stay in the same position, then who's going to help us to move out of the ghetto? Like, someone has to be that bigger person who steps out, and is a little bit more fearless than everybody else, and they take that big step. So I feel like, when you're doing whatever you're doing, like, don't be scared of success. I am so guilty of it. And sometimes I find myself self-sabotaging because it's so comfortable to stay in your comfort zone. And I think Wale explained it as well, because at every level there's a different devil. So for example, like with him, his clothing line got so big to the point where people are making counterfeits of it.
Yeah, and you can never plan that. I mean, you can never prepare for that. But it's funny because growing up, you see counterfeit, you see copies of everything. But I mean, they're usually, huge brands like Louis Vuitton, for example, or Gucci. And, for the average person, you don't care about the impact that's making on their business. But when it's someone when it's someone like Wale experiencing it direct, he's a brand that blew up and isn't like a Louis Vuitton that has, 10,000 employees and a massive turnover and the capability to deal with it, Like you said, it killed his brand. It killed his brand at the time, and he's there and he's trying to get help from the police and they don't even want to be involved. So, I mean, like he said, but what do you do? It is what it is. You just got to keep it moving and kind of reinvent. And that was his challenge that he went through. But yeah, it can be really, really difficult.
So how do you use fear to your advantage?
What was your acronym again?
So it was forget everything and run, or face everything and rise.
So I think the first part comes up. So forget everything and run. That's the initial feeling. So this can apply to like times I've been on stage, or just times when you're confronted with something, confronted with your own insecurities, which is going to be when you're put on the spot, basically. Anytime you're put on the spot. But then the other acronym comes up, which is, say again?
Face everything and rise.
Yeah, and I think that's what comes up. And then it's like you tap into a part of yourself where you ignore those thoughts. You don't overthink, you just do. And then you realize that it was always within you because it comes out naturally, Even if like for example, I guess this happens to. In fact, I know it does when people go to do like public speaking.
Yeah. Presentations.
Exactly. The number one fear in the world is public speaking. The number two fear is dying, which is hilarious to me.
Hold on, that's funny as hell. But I can totally understand it.
Exactly. And you know, it's like, even if you're stuttering, even if you forget your words and stuff, you know, we're all human. It's just go up and reach within you and just do you. Do you know what I mean? No matter how it comes out. And more time, what you'll find is people relate to that part of you even more than the most professional speaker or artist or whatever. You know, it's endearing.
That actually happened this week. Did you see it for Rams?
It was funny it's funny as I said that, Rams did appear in my head. Yeah, I did see that. But apparently that was an audio issue. I think the audio guys played like a delayed version or something like that. I mean, from what I can tell, that's what it looked like, because there is 80,000 people in the audience singing the song, and I think he took out his in-ears as well, so he's going to be hearing a delayed playback. Yeah. But I mean, what? How old is he? 19. He's not performed in front of 80,000 people before. It's a very technical performance. You know, you got to know what each step is and how that affects the audience and the broadcast. You know, so. But look, you live and you learn.
Yeah, I think the other definition of fair is also relevant because it's also in a slightly different context. So it's false emotions appearing real. And I think the best description I've seen of that is the Will Smith video, which we should post with this episode as well. Have you seen the one when he's describing skydiving?
Yes. Yeah. Let's post
that. Is the perfect definition of
that is
false
that sums this whole thing
appearing real. Because I can tell you, like, for most things that we're scared of, 90% of it's in your head, and 90% of it is before you actually partake in the act of doing what you're scared of doing.
Yep.
Because if you think about it, you're going for a job interview, you're going to do public speaking, you're doing anything, and 90% of the time you find that when you actually get up there to do it, it's like what Will Smith said. It's like you're in free fall. Like, you get up there and you just realize, what was I, like, killing myself about all this time?
Yeah.
And it goes back to what Sean said in his interview as well, the Sean Sager interview, where he was saying about, and I can't forget it, like, what did the guy said to him? Are you feeling tension in your bum?
Oh, yeah.
It was so funny.
Is your bum tight?
Is your bum tight?
I think it was. Yeah.
And I said that, I was like, what? But then it makes sense because it's getting yourself into that mode where, you know, you're more relaxed and you're more rational. You're thinking more rationally because all these emotions that are going through your head, they're not real.
No, they're just designed to protect you.
Yeah, and it's just your brain bringing up every scenario of what can potentially happen. And I'm not obviously putting words into Rams's mouth because I don't know what happened when he went out there. But like you said, being so young, the anticipation of coming out to 80,000 people, like, no matter how much bravado these rappers want to put on and, you know, all of this big man, bad man stuff, like, come on, like, you've probably sang to 1,000 people before and now you're coming out to 80,000. That's 80,000 mobile phones on you. 80,000 social media posts, potentially, all about you. And people have so much to say on social media these days. There's just no escaping it. So could you imagine the thought process before any of them gets on the stage? And you see performers like Beyonce and all of that are veterans at this, and they still have the same anxiety. And I think what they're good at doing though is they use that fear to push them. Because some of them actually say that they want to have the fear. The minute that they lose it, then they think that's when they should stop performing.
That's a very good point. I think the fear is humility, you know, and it's feeling the actual gravitas of the moment. But I think what they also do, and this, I think just generally Americans tend to do this well. They prepare like no other. Like if you look at a Bruno Mars show, just the level of dedication that goes into the show is insane. Like the music's insane anyway, but the level of preparation is just mad, and it shows. You know, they don't tend to rest on their laurels when it comes to that. You know, when you see a show, it's tight and there's so many people involved, and there's a real respect to the craft of performance. So it'll be good to get some performers on. Like, obviously we've had artists and people like that, but it'd be good to get maybe some dancers or something like that on the show.
Yeah, definitely. I was thinking about that as well. I was definitely thinking about that because one of the I've actually found this video that I wanted to post as one of the most creative things I've seen. But yeah, this whole thing about fear is, like I said, 90% mental. And once you go out there and you actually, you know, embrace your fear and then start to figure out how you can use this fear to your advantage, that's when you start winning. Because you don't want to not be fearful of things. That's the crazy thing. Because again, it goes back to what you say about being humble. If you and it kind of goes back to what Sean was saying as well about, you don't want to get to the point where you're so full of yourself that you think you're the best. That fear and that humility makes you want to improve each time that you step foot on the stage or you step out there to make the next record or the next painting. Because if you're going into something as if like, I've conquered that, I know exactly how to do that, I'm perfect, then there is no humility there, and that will resonate as well with your audience, and people will start losing interest in you because they think that you're now so cocky that you're no longer putting in that effort, and there's no longer that drive and that dedication there and that love for what you do. Like, you have to have fear. It's such a strange thing to say that, but you need it.
You have to use it as a tool.
Yeah. You need fear, because if you don't have fear in there, it's like us doing the podcast. We didn't know what to expect, but the fear was what propelled us, because anything could have happened, you know?
Yeah, which is why we decided to just get started and figure out things along the way, which everyone has heard. That's exactly what we've been doing.
Exactly.
Like literally every episode.
Because
even down to this episode, you know, we're figuring out how to do this remotely, and we have.
Let me just make sure that we're still recording there. 1 second.
Oh my days. Oh my days.
Yes.
Let's see. We're screen sharing, so is this yes.
Okay.
Oh, can you imagine? We just have to put up. Yeah, sorry. No episode this week, guys. If that happened, I swear.
But yes, guys, literally, you can't win without fear. It's such a strange thing to say. And every time like I record these podcasts, and every day I do like these motivational posts that I send out to people on WhatsApp and things like that. These things help you. Like, this is why motivation is so important. Because motivation does not mean that you're going to go out and conquer the world tomorrow. Because if you don't apply action to it, you're not going to achieve anything. But you have to think positively and start to change the way how you view things. Fear is your friend.
And a lot of it does come from, it's just the habitual practice of it. I think like motivation is almost just like an ignition. Do you know what I mean? Like turning on the engine, but without actually going and doing stuff and, you know, creating a positive feedback loop for yourself. I think that's what ends up motivating you more so than anything you hear on the internet or whatever. You know, I think that's just that's what ignites the flame. But to keep it going, you just have to stay in action, and then you'll start motivating yourself. You start inspiring yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the moral of the story is fear is your friend, and it's about changing your perspective on how you look at things. If you're going into situations and you're thinking that just because you've got a little bit of nerves and, you know, just because you're a little bit scared about doing it, do it. Still, just do it. because
feel
there's
the fear and do it
yeah,
anyway.
definitely, because it's so much better to say oops than it is to say what if. Because
That's a good one, and I say oops a lot.
yeah. No, but
Whoops.
it's what you said with the podcast. Like, if we imagine in the first month, and thank you very much to every single person who has listened so far. In our first month, we
Yes, thank you.
achieved 1,000 downloads, and that is a very, very big thing. Like, when I spoke to other people who have launched their podcast, and we've done that organically, guys. Like, when I've spoken to other people who've put podcasts out there, they haven't achieved that. Some haven't even achieved that yet after 4 or 5 episodes. But the fact of the matter is, if we went out there, because there's so many things that will stop you from doing things these days, again, because everyone's got an opinion. Like, one of the things that we said before we even started is that we're really naked now. We're putting ourselves out there, and we're open to criticism.
Yep. Criticism's good, man. Like, if the bigger goal is to make this the best it can be, we can't do that without criticism. You know, and that's using fear as a tool.
True.
Yeah, man. It's all for the greater good. It's all for the greater good.
You just gotta do what you want to do, man. Like, you just can't let fear hold you back, because there's always going to be like, and there's the story of the two wolves. Have you heard that one? So there's basically the story of two wolves, and it's usually more for good and evil, but you can also look at it for fear as well. It's the one that you feed, man. Like, if you're going to feed the one that's just going to be there, oh, worries me, I can't do anything because the whole world's against me, then that's exactly where you're going to end up. But if you're going to be the fearless wolf, where you're just like, yeah, shit happens, I'm still going to go out there and go after whatever I want to do anyway, then it's all down to the one that you feed. So just go out there and be fearless, man. Like, literally, because the worst that can happen is you end back up at square one, and square one is where you are right now anyway. So.
Exactly. Absolutely. Good. Cool. So I think that's a good place to wrap.
Yeah.
So next week, so as usual, we're gonna have an interview, and then that'll drop on Monday, and then on a Wednesday, Vanir and I will connect on this spotlight show, whether in person or on Skype. We don't know. Find out next week.
Next week we should have a guest on, by the way, so we're more likely to be in person than to be on Skype. We've decided not to say who the guests are going to be in advance of the spotlight, because sometimes it's subject to change. But we're looking forward to the one who we have scheduled for next week, and it should be amazing. As usual, we're going to be having the topic of the week. So this week's topic was obviously how to use fear to your advantage as a creative. Next week, we'll make it relevant to whoever we have joining us for the conversation, depending on their industry, etc.
Yep.
But as always, don't forget to subscribe. Recommend.
And we've changed our @ haven't we?
Yes, we have. We changed it to For the Creators podcast. Before, it used to be _the creators. We put For the Creators podcast now, so it's consistent on all of our social platforms, so it's a lot easier to find, because on Facebook wouldn't accept the underscore. So we didn't want it to be a situation where it was For the Creators ... then For the Creators 1, 2, 3.
Right.
Yes.
For the Creators official.
Exactly. Yes, guys. So please, whatever you do, our shows go out every Monday and every Wednesday. Ryan's really good. If he messes up the sound, at least he uploads quickly.
Yeah, for real. I've at least done that part. No, it's been good, man. It's been good. Yeah. And guys, after this, please take 5 seconds to rate and review this podcast. Give us 5 stars, obviously. And and just drop us a little note on the review, because it really helps people find the show, and we want to get this to as many like-minded people as possible. So yeah, please do that.
Yeah, and tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. And on that note, thank you very much for tuning in to another episode of For the Creators podcast. Available on all major podcast platforms on a Monday and a Wednesday.
Rap.
Toodles.
Toodles.
Bye.